It was Doug Ford under attack this afternoon at the first debate of this provincial election campaign. The three other main party leaders pointing to the PC party's record on issues such as homelessness, addiction, and housing. Now, Ford, meanwhile, tried to talk about tariffs and the economy. Then there was a controversy that only came up later from reporters. A video of Ford making a joke about the death penalty. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redicott was at today's debate and takes us through it.
The four leaders arrived to go head-to-head for the first time during this campaign, a debate focused on northern issues. Three trying to attack Doug Ford's record after 7 years as premier. One of those issues, housing.
Where are the homes that Doug Ford said he was going to build? Where are the homes, Doug? Because they're not in our communities. They're not in northern communities.
Under Doug Ford's Ontario, there is no home building happening, and our children can't afford their rent.
This premier, Mr. Ford, has said no to every housing solution that works for people. Why? Because the interests of wealthy land speculators are more important to this government than you, the people of Ontario.
Ford's response, pivoting to an issue he wants to talk about.
How you build more homes, you protect businesses, you protect their jobs against Donald Trump's tariffs.
Oh my gosh.
You protect the economy, you protect the people's jobs. Yeah. They're going to have an opportunity to go out there and buy a home.
You talk about Donald Trump, you have shown us who you are. You say one thing in front of the public like this, and you go to say another thing behind closed doors every single time. You did that on the Greenbelt.
The others also attacked Ford for his strategy on fighting tariffs and calling the early election now.
You fly off in the middle of an election for photo ops in Washington with low-level advisors. What's the point?
And to play politics with tariffs at a time when we should all be working across party lines, showing strength through unity to push back against Donald Trump, to distract from the failure to actually build homes and the $8.3 billion Greenbelt scandal, I believe is highly irresponsible.
They criticized Ford for moving to close safe injection sites before replacement services are available. His response?
We're cleaning up the streets. That's first and foremost. We shut down drug injection sites near schools and daycares.
Another issue raised later, a video of Ford speaking at a police gala posted by CTV.
God forbid they shoot someone and they survive 20 years.
Talking about people involved in violent home invasions.
God forbid they kill an innocent person. I don't even go 25 years. I send them right to Sparky.
Sparky referring to the death penalty. Ford's spokesperson in a statement called it a poor taste joke.
We need a premier who's not going to make jokes about the death penalty.
It's a pretty serious matter to joke about, I would say. I think it speaks to character. I think he was in a room he thought was friendly, and he felt that he could say what he wanted, much like that dinner he had with developers when he told them he would open up the Greenbelt.
Well, look, I mean, this is Doug Ford, right? He says one thing in front of the public and then another thing behind closed doors, and he does it over and over again. He has shown us who he is. I will say, I think they're disgusting and inappropriate comments.
Doug Ford was supposed to be interviewed last.
Because of timing, there was an event that Doug is gone to, so he's not staying.
It meant no post-debate questions from reporters on that or anything else.
Just like in 2022?
I have no idea.
The only other debate of this campaign is on Monday in Toronto. All the parties have agreed to take questions later from reporters. Lorena Redicott, CBC News, North Bay.
Turning now to a development in the election campaign, the NDP will not be on the ballot in the Toronto riding of Eglinton Lawrence. That's because the NDP candidate has dropped out of the race, urging voters in that riding to support the Liberals. Let's bring in our senior reporter covering this election, Mike Crowley. And Mike, how is this going to affect this campaign?
Look, Kelda, every seat counts, and Eglinton Lawrence was one of the closest seats in the province in the last election. The PCs won it by just a few hundred votes over the Liberals. And when you take a look at what the NDP candidate said in explaining her decision, it's actually quite remarkable. So we'll look at that here. She said the race in Eglinton Lawrence is a clear two-party contest contest between Liberals and Conservatives to prevent a Conservative win. I'm stepping aside to avoid a vote split. This is almost unheard of. And the New Democrats that I've spoken to today privately are furious. Publicly, all that the NDP leader Marit Stiles would say is that she is disappointed her party won't have a candidate in that riding.
Everybody should be able to vote for a candidate that shares their values. I think for many of the folks who are going to be supporting us, the current Liberal leader in particular just does not reflect their values or, frankly, the values of many past Liberal voters.
And the candidate dropped out at a time just before the deadline for registration of candidates. And that meant that the NDP couldn't get anybody else onto the ballot. And I'm also told that the party didn't even know that she'd done it until the deadline passed.
Wow. And Mike, how rare is it for a candidate of a major party like this to drop out like this and then urge voters to vote for another party?
Yeah, I've done some research on this, and it's almost unheard of. In fact, you do get MPPs or members of parliament crossing the floor, switching parties. But for a New Democrat to quit and say vote Liberal to stop the PCs from winning the seat. I spoke to a political consultant who's been in the business for 30 years and told me she has never heard of such a thing ever happening. So, and that kind of prompts people to wonder, why is it so rare? Because a lot of voters who see themselves on the progressive side of the spectrum say, oh, you know, why don't the Liberals and NDP cooperate a little bit more? They think there's like a natural alliance between the two. I spoke to a Liberal Party strategist who tells me that is just not how partisan politics works.
It's a team sport, and people tend to have strong allegiances. And I think one thing a lot of voters don't understand, because you're right, those of us close to politics that follow it every day understand this. Liberals and New Democrats have a far more bitter rivalry than Liberals and Conservatives. Because we're competing for the same voter pool, right? I mean, you're competing for the same group of voters.
Now, how much damage is this actually going to do overall to the NDP effort and Marit Stiles? The Liberals are definitely going to try to exploit this. They're going to use it as a kind of evidence, I'd say, to suggest that they're the only party that's actually in a position to beat Doug Ford and the PCs. But you might want to remember, Kelda, that's the exact same argument that the Liberals used in the last election. Yeah. Didn't work out very well for them that time.
No. All right. Thanks so much for this, Mike. Senior Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley. A new report on homelessness across Ontario says the problem is getting worse while spending to address it has stagnated. That comes as the province's political parties offer differing solutions on the campaign trail. Sean Jeffords has those details.
There doesn't seem to be a corner of the province untouched by homelessness. And a new report says the problem is growing while government spending to address it has remained largely unchanged over the past decade. That comes as provincial party leaders are pitching their plans to address the issue. But this expert from the Maytree Foundation looked at the numbers and says more funding is needed to address the problem.
Spending has stagnated in real dollars. We really aren't spending any more than we were 10 years ago on housing and homelessness.
The foundation crunched publicly available government data on program spending aimed at homelessness and low-income housing. They say that in 2013, when the figures are adjusted for inflation, Ontario was spending about $1.3 billion. Spending spiked in 2020 to over $2 billion because of the pandemic. But that was projected to come back down to around $1.5 billion in 2024. The Maytree report contrasts those numbers with a study released last month by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. It found that over 81,000 people experienced homelessness last year in the province, a number that's jumped 25% in 2 years.
We are at a real tipping point. Without concrete action, it is only going to get worse.
White says when you look at those numbers, it shows Ontario isn't spending enough to address homelessness. It needs to spend $11 billion over the next decade.
We need a real plan, a real investment, a real time horizon, and a real goal that says we're gonna solve this thing.
Ontario's PC party says it will spend $3 billion over the next 3 years on affordable housing, homelessness, and emergency shelters.
I'm going to keep telling you, there's never been more of an investment in homeless folks than what we've invested.
Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie is committed to building more housing and enhancing addiction services.
It has to be affordable housing, and it needs to be supportive housing for those individuals who are living on the streets, some of them facing some vast mental health challenges, some addiction issues.
NDP leader Marit Stiles says the party will build 60,000 new supportive housing units, upload all shelter costs, and enhance housing benefits.
We need a government that's going to lead and going to build the homes that are permanently, deeply affordable that Ontarians need.
And Green Party leader Mike Schreiner has promised to build 310,000 affordable homes.
If we're going to move the 81,000 people currently experiencing homelessness in Ontario right now out of encampments into housing, we have to make sure that the government provides the mental health and addiction supports that people need.
Ontario goes to the polls on February 27th. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
Police are looking for a 24-year-old Toronto man in connection to a fatal shooting last week. Delano Robertson Barry is wanted on a Canada-wide warrant for second-degree murder.
And today, I'm asking for the public's assistance in the following areas. If you were in the area of the shooting at the time, if you saw anything, if you heard anything, if you have any video of the incident, I'm encouraging you to contact the police.
The shooting happened just after 8 p.m. last Wednesday in the area of Sherbourne and Queen Street East. When officers got to the scene, they found a man suffering from a gunshot wound. The police attempted life-saving measures and paramedics transported the man to hospital where he later died. The victim was identified as 43-year-old Lyle Pownell of Toronto. The suspect is considered armed and dangerous. Anyone who sees him is asked to call 911 immediately. An update now to a story we brought you last night about the City of Toronto sending a cease and desist letter to the nonprofit organization Tiny Tiny Homes. The organization provides micro shelters for the unhoused. The city, though, wanted the 5 units at St. James Park removed. In a social media post today, Councillor Alexandra Bravo said the city will work with the nonprofit to find a resolution, adding that she only heard of the cease and desist letter yesterday on social media. The letter was sent about a week ago. Tiny Tiny Homes launched an online petition after receiving the letter demanding the city collaborate with them instead. The petition generated over 10,000 signatures in one day. Well, just as we finished digging ourselves out of one major snowstorm, here comes a second one. Toronto is forecasting another big snow event over the weekend, adding more fresh powder to what we already got. Ali Chiasson has more on how the city is preparing.
You might want to have that shovel handy. Another blast of winter weather is headed our way.
We are anticipating further snowfall this weekend.
And that's on top of the 20 centimeters of snow we're still digging our way out of.
This is no big deal. They did look like it did a good job.
Yesterday was all hands on deck, or like all plows on streets. The city deployed its entire snow clearing fleet.
Yeah, they're doing a nice job, but it's plenty of snow, so maybe difficult.
Others say, missed a spot.
My street's still impossible to walk through.
I can't believe it's day 2 or 3 and there's still all this slush and everything out here. Yeah. We just commented on that, actually. That's my opinion.
Brought our boots?
Yeah.
These folks are visiting from northern Ontario, so they know snow.
If that was happening up in Elliott Lake, I'm on council, there'd have been a lot of people talking.
Town council is indeed talking about how they're prepping for the weekend.
Parking continues to be prohibited on all designated snow routes to help crews clear our streets as effectively as possible.
Because we don't want to see another repeat of this. Yeah, streetcars aren't supposed to do that. Nor a repeat of this scene at Pearson Airport, where more than 100 flights were canceled yesterday. The GTAA says they'll have all their plows and de-icing equipment ready, but still, it's important for anyone flying over the weekend to check their flight status before heading to the airport.
We'll have to activate all of our plowing and salting activations again in order to clear the roads, the cycling infrastructure, and the sidewalks.
Then next week, dump trucks will be out, removing the snowbanks and dumping them in what the city calls snow dumps. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty.
The weather's going to be quite cold. The temperatures are going to be below zero all next week. And so much of the snow that's there will only move if we move it.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. The Why Portugal concert series kicks off tonight at Lighthouse Arts Space. 10 Portuguese artists will be performing their modern takes on Portuguese traditional music right up until the end of this month. Now, the music will be mixed with immersive visuals with the aim of giving the Portuguese diaspora in Canada a taste of home. The festival kicking off this evening with the band Bicho Carpinteiro.
I think we can make like an immersive show for the Portuguese people and not only the Portuguese people. And people can expect like a trip to Portugal, to mostly the countryside of Portugal.
The concert series continues on Monday, one of 4 more shows throughout the month, the last one happening on February 26th. Well, it's that time of year again when people are shelling out for their Valentine. And with the threat of U.S. tariffs, the Toronto mayor says today is a good day to show local businesses some love and affection. Nama Weingarten has more.
These are made locally here in Toronto.
Craig Sakula says vases and stuffed animals are just some of the hot items people are after this Valentine's at the shop he manages, Burgo Designs. He's put Canadian flags next to products that were made here, making it easy for customers to choose items made in the country.
Toronto is a diverse city with so many unique businesses. It's critical for our local economy that people shop local.
Something Mayor Olivia Chow encouraged this Valentine's at a chocolate factory in the city.
So, as you are thinking about giving something for your Valentine's today, think about Canadian-made chocolate.
Mary says, you know, whatever I bring home, it's heavy.
And in the wake of the tensions with the U.S., customers say they don't need much convincing.
We can't be influenced by pressure and political nuances of other countries, right? I think it's important.
I make a point now of checking when I'm looking at something to buy. I make a point of checking where it's made and whether it's going to support the Canadian economy or not.
I just take her to try some local coffee as well, the Canadian maple syrup.
For other businesses like this jewelry shop, the threat of a trade war is all the more motivation to keep sourcing local items.
It is important on 2 levels. One, not only does it promote our local community, but it also helps you save a little money along the way. And anytime we buy Canadian, it keeps our community healthy and strong.
As shops and consumers gear up for the possibility of President Donald Trump's tariffs on all Canadian goods, Chow made it clear that Canada and Toronto will stand strong.
We know we are polite, but let me be clear. As proud Canadians, we do not back down to bullies.
The mayor says she'll unveil the city's economic plan next week to deal with the looming tariffs. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
How about a sweet love story for Valentine's Day? Today is a special one for New Brunswick seniors Brenda Trafford and David Steele, who fell in love later in life after a memorable phone call.
Brenda and I got together and everything's worked out really nicely. We enjoy each other's company. We enjoy traveling together. And I love her because I can go to Fredericton and we don't have to stop for a pee like she does.
The pair met 5 years ago when David began volunteering for Nursing Homes Without Walls, a program that matches volunteers to seniors who need support. And David, who had recently lost his wife, matched with Brenda for weekly phone calls. Both said they liked the sound of each other's voices. And one thing led to another, then they met in person and eventually they fell in love. Brenda, who is a widow, says she feels, quote, lucky to have found David at a point in her life when she thought she would never find love again. And a reminder, for news anytime, you can head to our website. That's at cbc.ca/Toronto or download the CBC News app. And as we head to break, another look at the cleanup from Wednesday's storm. Colette will tell us about the storm on the way in your long-range forecast after the break. Stay with us. All right, Colette, before we get to the weather, I want to say that your Valentine's Day outfit game, very strong.
The
You're
little
winning.
hearts, if you can't see
yeah,
that.
I love
but
that.
Look at us
I
together.
love, oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you got the hearts going. Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And to all of you.
Exactly. How's the weather? This weekend, it's going to be a big dumping, right?
Yeah, we've got another very active weekend ahead of us, so more snow is on the way, and it kind of comes in these two waves as I've been explaining this. And we also just looking at what we have in place for advisories or watches or warnings, they have to do with the two waves of this system, Saturday versus Sunday. So the weather advisory, more so because some of the mixing and ice pellets that come with the portion of the system that comes through on Saturday, and then the winter storm watch more for Sunday because the snowfall rates will be heavier, higher accumulations, and more blowing snow, reducing visibility. So the worst of it is going to be on Sunday. There's that deep trough in the west in the jet stream, and that's that energy that's going to be pulling our way. We just got rid of one. Here comes another. So on Saturday, it's more of this 5 to 10 centimeter in terms of the range, and then a little bit of a break. It does start tomorrow, maybe a little earlier. I was saying lunch hour. It could be for the GTA actually late morning, and then somewhat of a break, just kind of some flurries. But then Sunday, here it comes, and starts early. You're not going to get off somewhere early Sunday morning and get where you're going. You're just going to have to sit tight through the day, and then as it blows around, even though it'll be over with into Monday, with still a windy day Monday, I think we'll still have problems with visibility. What you're looking at here is just what's happening for Saturday. So this is stopped Saturday, or you see Sunday, this is midnight, okay, before the wave comes in for Sunday. So now let's add that on top. These aren't new totals, it's all added together. There's the possibility of an additional 25 or more centimeters coming into the GTA on Sunday. Putting the totals, these may be a little bit high, yes, but parts of eastern Ontario are certainly looking like they could be easily seeing 40 to 50 centimeters between the 2 days. So your overnight temperatures tonight will probably hit our low just after midnight, and then that temperature will actually start to come up as we head towards 7 a.m. Still going to be a chilly start. A little breezy with winds out of the east tomorrow, but nothing like they'll be as we get into Sunday. Those winds will actually be gusting over 60 kilometers an hour. So that's why I'm more concerned about Sunday. Snowfall rates 3 to 5 centimeters per hour, plus very strong winds. Still breezy on Monday, and maybe you'll notice very cold air and some very cold nights after that. So
Get ready.
Sticking around.
Yeah,
Yep.
get your parkas out, get your shovels out, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Do
all
your
of that.
stretching, all the things, right?
Thanks so much, Colette. That's all the time we have tonight. Thanks for watching. Have a great night and a great weekend, everyone.